There's a special kind of arrogance that comes with thinking a piece of paper can change reality. Some folks think if you file enough documents, slap enough signatures and stamps on something, you can just, I don't know, will the world into letting you have whatever you want. Want a good example? Pull up a chair, because you're about to hear how I tore down a house someone built on my land, all because they believed a fake LLC and a crooked plat could beat 70 years of family sweat. Honestly, you probably think stuff like this only happens in movies, or maybe to people who aren't paying attention. Trust me, I was paying attention. Or at least, I thought I was, until I rolled back onto my property and found a two-story house where there shouldn't have been anything but wild grass and a couple of deer trails. Let's back up. I'm not some big shot land baron. My family's had this patch of earth since 1952, 87 acres, runs along a creek, mostly timber, a little pasture. My granddad bought it with money from laying brick, built a house in the middle, raised some cattle, kept the rest wild. When my dad got in the 80s, he didn't change a thing. Neither did I when it passed to me 3 years back, except for a little more time clearing trails, making sure the fences were tight, and remembering what my dad wrote on a note he left inside the deed folder. Don't let anyone take this from you. Seems simple enough, right? Nobody bothered us. Not really, at least not until the land to the south, an old farm, sold off, and a bunch of developers showed up. They carve it up, pave their roads, build a big stone sign that said Lakeview Ridge, and started selling lots for more money than my granddad ever dreamed about. First time the new HOA folks tried to claim my gravel road for their own, I set him straight with a survey and a lawyer letter. Thought that'd be the last of it. I was wrong. You ever come home after a long time away, roll down the window, take that deep breath of pine and dirt, only for something in your gut to tell you, hang on, something's off? That's how it happened. I was gone 5 weeks, helping my sister in Oregon, and when I finally pulled up the access road, I spotted it. A shiny, half-built house, Tyvek flapping, 2 stories tall, standing right in my clearing. It took a minute to process. I know my land. Every old fence post, every dip in the field. I double-checked with the county GIS app. I'm not kidding. Zoomed in so close you'd think I was trying to see ants, and sure enough, this thing was at least 20 feet inside my property line. Not even close to being on the HOA side. A construction foreman wandered over, clipboard in hand, and, get this, tried to convince me the house was on HOA land, with all the permits and surveys, the whole thing. I told him, buddy, you're building on land that's been in my family since before Lakeview Ridge was even a sparkle in some developer's eye. He shrugged. Not his problem, he said. Talk to the HOA. That's how I got the business card of Ron Callahan, HOA president. If you're picturing a guy who's been through more closings than Christmases, you're not far off. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. I spent the next hour digging through county records. You wouldn't believe how easy it is to find out when someone's tried to steal your land, if you know what you're looking for. Corrected plat. Lakeview Ridge, filed April 12, 2024. Boundary adjustment correcting surveyor error. Sure, except this correction conveniently stole a strip of my land, labeled it HOA common area, and there was a so-called easement, too, supposedly giving them permanent rights to build and use the land. Problem? The grantor wasn't me. Wasn't anyone I'd ever heard of. They listed Mitchell Ridge Holdings, LLC. You guessed it, I never formed an LLC. My land's in my name, period. Someone had made up an entity, forged documents, and filed them with the county. And then they started building. At that point, I called my lawyer, David. I told him the story, voice probably 3 pitches higher than normal. He just said, document everything. Don't talk to them. I'll pull the county records. You know that feeling when you're standing on your own land and suddenly it feels like someone's rearranged the furniture while you're gone. That's what it felt like walking my fence line, taking photos, GPS pins, marking every inch that house sat on my side of the world. Next morning, I was at the county offices, folder in hand, nerves jangling. There's a woman named Linda who's worked the desk there since before I could drive. She printed every document filed against my parcel, the corrected plat, the fake easement, the building permit. I asked her to check if Mitchell Ridge Holdings LLC had ever owned my land. She tapped the keyboard, shook her head. Never. Continuous ownership, granddad dadded me. No LLCs, no sales. Just us. So how did this get recorded, I asked. She said, we don't check if the grantor actually owns the land. If it's notarized, formatted right, we file it. That's on the title search and permitting process. She leaned in a little. Sometimes people hope nobody checks. I checked. I checked. Turns out, none of the county folks knew about the fraud. Assessor, permitting, all of them relied on the paperwork the HOA gave him. They'd issued permits, signed off on inspections, all based on lies. My lawyer read through the files, stone-faced. You have every right, he said, to remove a trespassing structure from your land. I blinked at him. Tear it down. Document it. Give them notice. But yes, if they don't remove it, you can. So that's what I did. Hired a surveyor, Karen, tough as nails, came out with her crew and marked every inch. Her report. Structure is entirely within your property. No ambiguity. That was that. We sent a formal demand letter to the HOA. They had 2 weeks to get the house off my land. Ron Callahan called me, clipped, defensive, wanted to meet at the HOA clubhouse, which, by the way, looked like someone's idea of a country club for people who think granite countertops make you upper crust. David and I walked into that conference room with a box of documents. Ron tried to steamroll us with talk of permits, recorded plats, community good. I didn't bite. David laid out the survey, the title chain, the proof the LLC didn't exist. Show us a single document with my client's signature, he said. Ron tried the classic color of title argument. We've used the land for years, made improvements. It's ours now, right? David just smiled. That's trespass, not ownership. Tempers flared. Ron threatened lawsuits, said I was standing in the way of progress. I just said, you built on land you don't own. That's on you. After that meeting, I knew they were going to back down. They ramped up construction, trying to finish the house before I could stop them. The judge denied our request for an emergency stop. Said if they were trespassing, I had other remedies. Which, turns out, is lawyer speak for go handle it yourself. So, with a ticking clock, I gave them one last notice. 10 days to get their house out of my field. They didn't even respond, except for some snarky email Ron CC'd to half the town, calling me a keyboard cowboy. Day 11, just after sunrise, a white demo truck rumbled up my gravel road. Alvarez, guy running the crew, took one look at my stack of documents, my cameras, my coffee, and said, we'll do this by the book. The excavator didn't swing, didn't smash. They took the house apart piece by piece, windows out, lumber stacked, shingles bundled. Did Ron show up? Of course he did, red-faced and yelling, waving his phone, threatening to call the cops. Sheriff's deputies arrived, took one look at the deed and the survey, and said, this is a civil matter. You got the paperwork. Ron's threats fizzled out. The law wasn't on his side. Not even close. By that afternoon, the house was gone. Just a bare slab left, some stacked lumber, and a whole lot of silence. You think that's the end? Please. The HOA sued me 3 days later, claiming damages, destruction of community assets, even emotional distress. Their complaint ran 50 pages. My lawyer didn't blink. We countersued for trespass, slander of title, fraud, and filed for a court order saying, once and for all, that the land was mine. Then came discovery. You want a real twist? Here's where it gets good. In a pile of emails, we found everything. The developer and the first HOA president, not Ron, someone named Linda, had spotted the boundary problem early on. They knew the house was on my land, even spelled it out in emails. Option 3, file a corrected plat. Hope the neighbor doesn't notice. If he does, we'll negotiate after the fact. And when they couldn't get me to sign an easement because nobody ever asked me, they created a fake LLC, forged the documents, and moved ahead. Under oath, they admitted it. Ron, to his credit, tried to claim ignorance, but by then it didn't matter. The paper trail was a mile long. When it finally came to court, the judge didn't mince words. The plat was void. The easement was a fake. The LLC didn't exist. The house was a trespass. I'd acted within my rights, tearing it down. The HOA owed me every penny I'd spent fixing their mess, plus my lawyer's fees. The kicker? She ordered the county to stamp those fake documents null and void in the official record so nobody could ever try this again. Ron huffed and puffed, swore he'd appeal, but never did. The HOA paid the judgment, Ron resigned, and I went back to walking my fence line, deed in hand, just like my dad told me. There's something almost funny about it now. All those lawyers, all those meetings, all that posturing. In the end, the only thing that mattered was whose name was on the deed and who was willing to stand their ground. You want to know what stuck with me? Not the courtroom win, not the demolition. It was the handful of neighbors who came over after apologizing, asking if their kids could still use the trail to the creek. I said yes. Drew up a simple agreement. No lawyers, no drama, just people respecting a boundary. Most folks, they want peace. It's the few who think rules don't apply to them that force your hand. I never wanted to be the guy tearing down someone's house. But you build on my land, you file fake paperwork, you try to bluff me out of what my granddad worked for. I'll stand on that ridge and fight till there's nothing left to fight for. I guess the lesson is this. You can fake a lot of things in life, but you can't fake a deed. You can bluff, you can bully, you can file all the corrections you want, but when the dust settles, the law is going to want to see who really owns the ground you're standing on. And sometimes, the only way to remind people of that is to show up, say no, and mean it. Now I'm curious. If you'd been in my shoes, would you have done the same? Or do you think I went too far? Where do you draw the line when someone tries to steal what's yours, on paper or otherwise? Let me know. And if you've got a story about holding your ground, or about someone who tried to push you off it, I'd like to hear it. We all could use a reminder, now and then, that some lines aren't meant to be crossed.